what Random Patriot does is he comes and he decides that he's going to have a test. Remember, this is all about testing. And again, I'm not knocking Random Patriot. It's his First Amendment right to do it. But the Random Patriot shows up to town. He wants to do a test on the citizens of Cave City, which I thought was really interesting. So he had a sign, and it said F. And he did not just say F, cancer. Then he tallied how many 911 calls, 0 911 calls for the sign that said F cancer. Then he said, now I'm going to pull out the Cave City Police Department sign. Then 15 911 calls. And his point, which I think is, I get what he's saying. He's saying it wasn't the word. It wasn't the F word. It was this fact that I was saying F police officers. He's not wrong. The word itself is not a violation. I can say it all day long if I wanted to, and the city can't arrest me for it. The police department can't arrest me for it.
We are about to watch an Arkansas Municipal League meeting that was held last week that apparently had a large portion specifically about me. It was hosted by Municipal League General Counsel and Legislative Director John Wilkerson, along with another Municipal League member, Jonas Anderson, who is also the mayor of Cave City and has been in one of my videos. I want to say I think John did an amazing job. I did have one complaint, however, and I'm going to read the email between John and I discussing this complaint before we get into the video. I did talk to John on the phone after the meeting. This email takes place the following week. Happy Wednesday, Mr. John. I hope you're having a good day. It's still cold, but a little less than yesterday. I am emailing you today to follow up on the audio and PowerPoint we spoke about last week. Have you resolved a way to provide that via a link? I did review the PowerPoint, but I'd really like to hear what was said in the meeting. After reading the PowerPoint, I believe you might misunderstand what I am doing. You do get it better than most, I will admit, but I would love a chance to talk to you sometime to hopefully better explain myself. One point I will say in this email is anytime I see someone claim I do this for clicks, I immediately know their mindset is skewed. I don't mean any disrespect by that, but I do feel it is disrespectful to tell people I do this for clicks. Any journalist or reporter or videographer for any news station or broadcast media company, etc. wants views. That is literally the point. Everyone at CNN or Fox or PBS wants views. Nobody ever makes any kind of video or movie or show, podcast, etc. and doesn't want views. So when you say he is doing it for views, you are taking what should be an obvious statement and attempting to weaponize it in an effort to undermine my content. I'm doing this because this free country has slipped into the mindset that you could go to jail for saying a bad word, for example, or for not giving your name. Our forefathers would be rolling over in their graves if they knew. I am trying to educate, spread awareness, and stop officers from violating people's rights. Do I want views? Of course I do. That's how you spread awareness. Do I want to make a living wage doing it too? Of course I do. Wouldn't you? I get hundreds to thousands of emails and messages a week from people either thanking me or asking for help. I am not just a YouTuber looking for clicks. I love this state and I want better for my fellow citizens. Arkansas has the third highest arrest rate in the country and is known countrywide for being ignorant to our rights and having little disregard for our safety. Thank you for taking the time to read this. Looking forward to the unredacted audio and any other media you might be able to provide. Now, John writes back the same day, hello, your timing is perfect. I just got the link for the video. Here it is. As for the rest, I appreciate your words. You're right. In fact, I was listening through the presentation again and thought I need to rethink exactly what is happening and what your role is in all this before I start labeling anyone. Admittedly, I was too quick to label without making the effort to understand the whole picture. I'm happy to have more insight into all this from you. It's necessary and appreciated, so thank you. I appreciate your willingness to speak with me, and I appreciate the kind and measured tone of your email. I hope I have repaid that with this email, and I will be sure to do a better job of relaying your purpose to those I teach on this topic. At the end of the day, I do not want anyone to violate anyone's rights, and neither do you. I teach, you test. Makes sense to me. Thank you again, John. And I love that last part where he says, you test, I teach. Now, I'd also like to note before we get into this real quick that I have a court case coming up from being arrested in Dover, Arkansas for saying a bad word in public. And in the meeting, John Wilkerson, who is the legislative director for the Arkansas Municipal League, specifically says it is absolutely legal to say fuck in public. He actually talks about profanity being legal more than once, along with some other controversial topics. Check it out. This video has been edited for time. I'll leave a link to the full unedited version in the description and comment section.
So we are here to talk about First Amendment Auditors 201. By the way, show of hands, has anybody dealt with a First Amendment auditor in their city or town? Yeah, that number seems to keep rising every year. So we talked through 101, what they are, how to handle them, but we figured we'd take another step into this and go to First Amendment Auditors 201 because Mayor Anderson and I, Mayor Anderson more than I did, lived through an experience after First Amendment Auditor 101 session, and we realized there's more to this than just 101. First of all, the question is there a right to record, and is there a right to record anywhere? The answer to the question is yes, there's a right to record, but no, there's not a right to record anywhere. We know just instinctively as human beings that you can't record somebody in the bathroom, which means there are limitations on where you can record. The Constitution has talked about this as well, but we're going to start with the state law about this. The state law has talked about that there is a right to allow people to record, to have a recording device in a place that is open and accessible to the public. There is a right under Arkansas law to allow someone to record people doing government work. Arkansas law, state law, statutory law talks about the right to record, and the Constitution also talks about the right to record, but not to record anywhere. So again, you're going to get the comment, but my taxes pay for this building. But the U.S. Supreme Court has talked about this. There's nothing in the Constitution that requires the government to allow free access to all who wish to exercise their right to free speech on each type of government property without the respect to the nature of the property or to the disruption that might be caused by the speaker's activities. The Constitution or the Supreme Court has talked about that the nature of the property, the nature of the public facility is important, and the disruption that it may cause is also important to know when you can and what you can do to limit First Amendment auditors' ability to record. We had the HR director in Sherwood was called by somebody in Ohio and called, what's the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un? She was called Kim Jong-un, which I thought was weird that because she didn't let, anyway. But anyway, the point is that you're going to get a lot of these calls from people out of state. A lot of these auditors are going to come from out of state, but a lot of them are going to come from inside the state as well. And we're going to talk about one in particular. City Hall is not an absolute public forum. And what I mean by that is people have access to the building. People can come in and do city business, but there's certain things that you don't have to allow. You don't have to allow outright disruption to your building. But the key is what constitutes a disruption. That's the real issue. So inside City Hall, you got to be very careful with where you limit where people can do things. So if you're going to limit particular situations or particular rooms and say you can't go to this room, you need to put a sign up. You need to put a policy in place. You need to make sure that people know where they can and can't go and have a reason for why they can and can't go there. Don't put a sign on City Hall that says you can't come in here with a recording device. That ain't going to work because it's still a public building. But do you want to prevent people from recording inside of HR? Sure. You want to prevent people from walking into the jail and recording people in the jail? Yes, you can do that sort of thing, but you have to have signs about it. You have to have a policy on it, and you have to train your folks on that policy and implement it consistently. The biggest issue, one of the biggest issues I've seen is Joe Jack, First Amendment auditor from Ash Flat, comes to Little Rock and wants to be a First Amendment auditor, wants to record. Well, we know Joe Jack, and like, okay, come on, Joe Jack, you can do whatever you want to in here. But then Sally Sue from Hot Springs shows up, wants to do the same thing, and we're like, no, we don't like you, Sally Sue. You said something bad about us on YouTube. Well, Joe Jack and Sally Sue, it does not matter what they say, they're doing the exact same thing. They want to record inside a public building in an area that is allowed, that is not restricted for a good reason. They want to record. So implement the policies, train people in the policies, and make sure that you implement them consistently. this is what you see. These are the First Amendment Auditor YouTube pages that you probably know and love. Right here on the left in the center, that's Jill Ross out in Sherwood, who was confronted. That's the one that was apparently as bad as Kim Jong-un, which I disagree with. I know Jill. She's not that bad. I wish Jill was in here to hear that.
Or Vladimir Putin type.
Yeah, more of Putin. Yeah, less Stalin-y. But she was approached. She was recorded. She did a fair job. Could she have done it better? She and I have talked about this. Yeah, she could have done a little bit better. She could have known the policies better. She could have implemented the policies, known the policies, implemented the policies better. But she got obviously First Amendment audited, and then the backlash that happens, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. This is a quote from Caleb Alexander. They are everywhere. A cell phone exists. Caleb Alexander McKenzie, if you know, works in our office, and I thought this is a good quote. Something to very much keep in mind. There is no badge that I have to have that says I'm a journalist. Right? There's no such thing as a journalist badge. So another tip of the trade, if you have somebody that comes in and says, I'm a journalist, and you say, I don't know you don't work for the paper or the radio station or the TV station, they're a journalist. They're journalists. They're just a journalist. We can all say right now we're journalists, and we are journalists. That's all it takes. So never get in an argument with somebody about whether or not they're a journalist. You may not think they are, but they are. And the law has supported that they're just journalists. Everybody's a journalist who is willing to record and ask questions of the government. Now let's introduce our friend, the Random Patriot. Jonas's friend, I should say, the Random Patriot. I don't know where this cat's from, but I know he's from Arkansas somewhere. Where's he from? Conway. Oh, he's a Wampus cat like me. All right. 6 legs, 4 for running, 2 for recording you. 93,000 subscribers. His top video has 580,000 views. 580,000 views for his top video. By the way, it's 93,000 now. It was 77,000 when we dealt with him about 4 months ago. So he's growing. He's actually now being referenced by the Long Island audit guy, who has, I think, 3 million followers. And they're now in some sort of cahoots. Not cahoots, not in a bad way, but they're recognizing each other. So he's growing in popularity. He was actually, anybody from Dover in here? Yeah, okay, so y'all know all about this. He came to Youngstown 3 weeks ago, and your marshal arrested him and put the guy's face into the glass of City Hall. And I can tell you that don't look good on YouTube. I know there's more to the story, obviously, but he ain't telling it. He wants one thing, to entertain his folks and get more clicks. That's what he wants. So he's not going to tell the whole story. Now, does that mean that Dover did the right thing? I don't know. I don't know the whole story.
Yeah. If you don't have business here, you're not going to come up here and harass us. That ain't gonna happen.
But you didn't ask me. You didn't ask me that. You didn't ask me I had business.
Just get out. I'm
Okay,
telling
but
you.
you can back the off of me too.
Dude, you're not going to curse if I place you with a jail.
Freedom of speech.
You're under arrest. Disorderly conduct.
I'm saying freedom of speech.
Yeah, okay. All right. You got cuff on you? All right. Yeah, I said you guys get out.
Oh, now you're telling us to get out.
I'm publicly.
Okay. Videotaping.
I am.
Videotaping right there.
Dude, you're not walking up on me while I'm arresting somebody. All right, what's your name?
I'm not telling you.
Okay. Well, put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest. Disorderly.
For disorderly?
You get what you wanted.
How did I? How am I disorderly? How am I disorderly? How am I disorderly?
Y'all getting premium YouTube.
How am I disorderly?
Huh? Using foul language in public
I'm
place.
allowed to, dude.
Yeah, okay, well, I just talked to the prosecutor, and he feels different.
Well, he doesn't know, and you're about to get into yourself a lot of trouble, brother.
Well, gladly. There you go. There you go.
The prosecutor will be in the same boat as you. Hey, you might want to be a little more careful on
You're
helping
screwed.
Yeah.
Dude, hey.
You just shoved me in the doorway.
We're not going to do that.
Get out the door now.
I ain't
Just
outside
busted
the
my
door.
leg.
I'm outside the door.
Now you guys get out. I've had enough. Hey.
It wasn't the F word. It was this fact that I was saying F police officers. He's not wrong. The word itself is not a violation. I can say it all day long if I wanted to, and the city can't arrest me for it. The police department can't arrest me for it. Just to be clear, this is their God-given right. So I bless them for it. And we have to respect that it's their right to do this. So, but Random Patriot is a friend apparently of y'all back there too, like us. But he's getting bigger and bigger. He enjoys this. To put this in perspective, I want to, the circles got off. But at the top here, President Obama honors fallen law enforcement officers. 10,000 views 14 years ago. Over here, cops assault journalists for asking questions in Hot Springs. 580,000 views. Honor fallen officers, 10,000 people pay attention. A cop arrests a journalist for no good reason, 580,000 people watch it. That puts it into perspective for me. That's a big deal. They're not watching your city council meetings. There may be a handful, and God bless those that do, but they're watching this. This is entertaining. This is clickbait. I love these videos. They're fun to watch. Of course, if they're in Arkansas, I'm like, oh, that's not great. But they're entertaining. That's what they want. They want you to be entertained, or they want their people to be entertained. Don't entertain anybody. They love escalation. Escalation is entertaining. If anybody in this room got into an argument, we're all watching. We're just going to watch. That's the other big lesson here. Don't entertain this. Don't escalate the situation. De-escalate. De-escalation is not entertaining. I've been a police officer's attorney for 19 years. I've never once had a case that involved a law enforcement officer that was not entertaining. They're all entertaining. Because the boring stuff doesn't get anybody sued. The boring stuff doesn't make it on YouTube. The boring stuff doesn't make it to KTV. This is a video that I showed. I want to show you a boring interaction that does not ruffle any feathers, and I just show it to show that this is the way it should be done. This is in Fort Smith. Guy's in a federal building recording.
I mean, he's dry. I can't make it in a public building right there. So, I mean, as long as he's up in there and he's not trying to build people's
personal offices, private offices, restricted areas.
So,
Yeah, I can ask people whatever questions I want, but that's not even my point here today. You can ask anybody anything, sir.
I'm about that.
Yeah, because, sir, and I appreciate, listen, you're law enforcement, and I appreciate you not enforcing people's feelings here today. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. You stay safe out there, okay?
The officer's thinking, I don't want to be part of this. And there's nothing to do. The guy was in a public building. He wasn't recording people's personal information. He wasn't getting into restricted access areas, which tells me that the feds had restricted areas. The auditor knew better, didn't get in the way, yet he was still being given a hard time by these security officers. And the Fort Smith police officer, much like the Cave City officers we'll talk about in a second, were like, hey, that's the First Amendment, man. If there's a problem, call me, but this ain't a problem. This is what it means to be an American.
They don't have a choice on whether who can come in and cannot. So what is?
By the way,
No, you will not.
To attack you back in
No, you cannot. No, you cannot. And I guarantee you won't.
Yeah, one. One escalate, we can escalate this.
Escalate whatever you want.
if you want to escalate, we can escalate. Yes, he wants to escalate it. That is what he's there to do, because that is entertaining. And I'm not knocking the guy. They're testing us. This is all about testing us. They want us to fail because it's entertaining. Now, a lot of the good ones want us to pass too. No, they'll say that, but those aren't exciting videos. These are good videos. Juan, I will never forget the look on Juan's face. Look, Juan is mad. Mad about what? That he's getting recorded? I mean, I don't know why he's so upset about this. But again, there may have been something before this said that I don't know about. Clever editing can do a lot of stuff. He may have called them whatever he may have called them. I don't think that he did. I think Juan's just mad. Juan was probably just having a bad day. But this is the way not to handle it. This is the reason you get called Kim Jong-un. I bet he's closer to Kim Jong-un than Jill and Sherwood. But sorry, Juan. I don't. If you know Juan, send him my apologies. But he's been very educational. When appropriate, ignore the auditor. Do not overreact. Don't entertain. Don't argue. Don't entertain. 6 favorite words is don't entertain, don't entertain, don't entertain. Don't be entertaining. Be boring. Please be boring. So we're done with this, and we're thinking we did a good job, and we did. It was a great presentation. And then enter Mayor Anderson, who did a great job, by the way, and the Cave City. So Mayor Anderson, this is your friend, the Random Patriot. I remember 77,000 subscribers back in August. He's up to 93 now. So tell us about your dear friend, the Random Patriot, how this all got started.
Yeah, there is actually a little bit more backstory to it, so and I'll try to be really quick about it just to kind of give you some context. He didn't just pardon the pun, randomly show up. He didn't just randomly show up in Cave City. Turns out the reason he came, I found out in our interaction, was we have a gentleman in town. He's a veteran. Unfortunately, he's kind of struggled, I think, with some mental issues and different things like that. And it's been a long process. A lot of people have known him for 20, 30 years. You know, a lot of people I talked to that have known him. He didn't used to be this way. Something's happened in the last 10 years. Anyway, that gentleman, a year before this, and I think it was October or so of 23, we have a problem with this gentleman. He likes to follow police officers around and harass them. This all started because he got a speeding ticket for doing 55 and a 25 in a city neighborhood. And he had a German Shepherd dog. He threatened to turn it loose on the officer. So he's always being harassed by police. The police are out to get him. The city's out to get him. We're all corrupt, all that. And so he shows up to City Hall. He wants to file a complaint on the police officer, again, with me. I was not there at the time. He's got some paper in his hand. He's demanding to speak to me. You know, they're like, well, he's not here. You know, what can we help you with? Well, I want to speak to the mayor. He's going around beating on locked office doors. He's at the police department, which the officer on duty was out doing his job. He's beating on the doors, yelling, carrying on. So an officer obviously eventually does show up. They had some notice that, hey, this guy may show up and be crazy. He did. So she let her officers know in a text message out to a few of them, hey, this guy's here. He's kind of in a mask. He's being crazy. They show up. They tried to talk him. Well, like I said, we know this guy. This is first name basis guy. Officer walks in. Man, what's going on? Like, it's all on video. Some of you may have seen that video. What's going on? Well, I want your resignation. He's in the officer's face. I want your resignation. Okay, we need to get outside the building. People are trying to come in and pay water bill. Like, we can't do this here. You can't be doing this. He won't do it. They end up having to, unfortunately, remove him from the building. He gets arrested, is actually charged and convicted with disorderly conduct. That case is gone and settled. He contacts Random Patriot, says, you know, the mayor, the police in Cave City are totally corrupt. They're harassing me all the time. They're violating my rights. The mayor's corrupt. He's covering up for them. You need to come up here and First Amendment audit them. So that's why this guy shows up.
So it's not random.
It's not really random. Yeah.
Sherwood wasn't random either.
No.
He had gotten some reports that the police were doing something or other in the whatever. Right. I don't even remember what it was because it's more entertaining to watch him deal with, you know, Jill. That was the entertaining part. What Random Patriot does is he comes and he decides that he's going to have a test. Remember, this is all about testing. And again, I'm not knocking Random Patriot. It's his First Amendment right to do it. And I know Jonas and the police department handle this appropriately. But the Random Patriot shows up to town. He wants to do a test on the citizens of Cave City, which I thought was really interesting. So he had a sign and it said F. He did not just say F. Cancer. Held up the F cancer sign and he's like, how many honks am I going to get for F cancer? Got a fair number. And then he tallied how many 911 calls there were for the word F. Or, well, it's recorded, so I can't say all that. But F cancer. 0 911 calls for the sign that said F cancer. Then he said, now I'm going to pull out the Cave City Police Department sign. Then a lot more honks. Then 15 911 calls. And his point, which I think is, I get what he's saying. He's saying it wasn't the word. It wasn't the F word. It was this fact that I was saying F police officers. He's not wrong. The word itself is not a violation. I can say it all day long if I wanted to, and the city can't arrest me for it. The police department can't arrest me for it. So he's counting the number of times that people call 911 about that sign. He also got a lot more honks. And at one point in the video, he says, well, it looks like Cave City hates cops more than they hate cancer. So that was kind of interesting. But he was making a point. So that's what he's doing out there. Then the mayor has a conversation with a Random Patriot because he comes by City Hall, right? Mm-hmm. This is not, yeah. This is Jonas and his dear friend. I'm going to keep saying that. The Random Patriot. And tell us about this interaction.
So you're right. Like he was out with the signs, you know. Of course, obviously, like you said, when he switched it to Cave City Police Department and phones, that's when people started getting hot. And he did make a comment about, even on his video, you know, oh wow, it looks, you know, I'm getting honked. Looks like people agree with my sign about the police department. No, they don't. They think you're an idiot. And you know, he had a few little couple ladies in town pulled over and gave him a piece of their mind, if you want to be honest about it. But by and large, no. So my first message that I got was, from our finance manager. She's in her office. Hey, this guy is walking around with a camera. Not really sure. I asked him, and this is probably what will happen to you. He walks in with a camera. She was like, "Can I help you?" He just smiles and says, "No, thanks." And then he just heads on down the hall. Well, she doesn't know what's going on. So she texts me and says, "There's a guy with a camera." Luckily, thank you, Arkansas Municipal League, we had already been discussing this kind of stuff before. So as soon as she told me there's somebody in here with a camera, I asked him if I could help him. He said, "No, thanks." And he's still walking around. What do I do? I said, "Don't do a thing. I know exactly what he's doing." I knew that we're getting First Amendment audited right now. So he's coming down the sidewalk with his Cave City Police Department, and I'm standing in City Hall. Of course, I'm like racking my brain, like, oh gosh, what am I going to do? He'd already been in there once. He had a very nice interaction with me and our office that first time. So he's coming back down the sidewalk the second time, and in my head, I'm thinking, do I just lock myself in my office and pretend like I don't see him, or what do I do? And I literally told my finance manager, I said, I may regret this, but I think I'm going out there to talk to the guy. And so I walk outside. Of course, he's got his camera. This is how I ended up with the security camera picture, and then also a lovely picture of me sitting with him with his the Cave City Police Department.
Jonas getting thumbs up too. No, he's
no. So I just walk outside, and he's like, "Hey, Mayor," and I said, "Hey," and I said, "What's really going on here? What's going on here?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, I'm just blah blah." And I said, "Well, let's sit down and talk about it for a second." So he's got his camera. He was like, "Do you care if I record you?" And he said, I don't have to." And I said, "Honestly, I would rather you not." And he didn't. Yeah, he said, "Okay." Right. I said, "I would rather you not have that sitting here on my face." He said, "I'm going to leave it recording. I'm just not going to point it at you." And I said, "That's fine." I said, "But no, I would rather not have it." So we sat on this bench for a while and we talked. And kind of like John was saying, I told him, I said, "I get what you're doing." Of course, he was giving me the line of, "I'm not trying to escalate. I'm not whatever." Yeah. And I told him, I said, "Listen, we know what's going on here. You're obviously, this is a monetary thing for you. You're going to get clicks off of this. You're going to get avid revenue." The guy sells merchandise. I mean, you can go buy Random Patriot t-shirts and caps and stickers and all that. I mean,
they're affordable too.
John got a great deal on a hat. Yeah, got a great deal. I got
get one free by the way.
I got 20% off just for the pictures. So as people are backed up to the only stoplight in town, I'm sitting next to this gentleman with an F the Cave City Police Department sign. And I'm telling him, "I get it. This is your right." I said, "I totally disagree with your method. Totally disagree with it. I think it's the totally wrong approach. I think what you're doing, all it's going to do is make people mad. You're out here trying to get a reaction." He's like, "No, I'm not trying to get a reaction." I said, "Yeah, but you are. You know that when you put this sign out here, this is what's going to happen." And this will happen to you. I was getting calls and text messages. "You need to send somebody out there and get that guy off that sidewalk. Our school kids should not have to look at that sign. Why are you not out there?" I mean, I had some people that were pretty hot at me. And to be honest, I had a couple of law enforcement officers that called me and said, "Man, why are we not going? Do you want me to go out there and get that guy off the sidewalk?" And I said, "Absolutely not. Do not touch him." And I made sure that we had a quick little powwow with all of our people. And I said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're not going to arrest him. You're going to be getting pressure to go out and do something with this guy. Don't take the bait. We're going to keep our head very calm, very cool, because the second we don't, we're going to make a mistake. And then that's when I'm going to have to call John Wilkerson and say, I just screwed up big time. And so we're going to have your help."
And so he's texting me as this is happening, and the guy leaves, and I'm like, "Yes, we did it." Yep. You were talking,
and he thanked me.
Yeah.
When he left, he was actually at City Hall, and he said, "Thank you for upholding my civil rights in Cave City today." And I said, "You're welcome." And I said, "If you're ever back this way, make sure you stop and get some watermelon." So I sure enough did.
Did he really?
I did. I told him. Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, okay, we did a great, Caleb and I did a great job. Our 101 training in the summer was perfect. It was timely. It was executed to perfection. This is what we do. And it was terrific. So we're like, "Oh, this is wonderful.
This is great."
But then it wouldn't stop. It kept going. And then we thought, oh, there's more to this. It's not just about dealing with that auditor that one time. There is, like Mayor Anderson mentioned a minute ago, in this instance, there was something before it.
Right.
These random audits don't seem to be random in our experience. There's something backing it up. So we got to think about what needs to be done, because the story doesn't end when the auditor leaves, and sometimes it doesn't even begin when the auditor arrives. And that's what we've learned about this. That's why we're talking about 201 now, because doing what Mayor Anderson did, you would think, I thought naively, that was it. It was over. He did a great job. We're moving on. I think you did too. Like, it's over. It's done. No, we didn't know that it was going to be to this extent. So it continues to carry on. And I saw the videos of Mr. Short that the Random Patriot put together, and they're fun. They're interesting to watch. But the issue kept going. So now you got to think about, now Mayor Anderson knew why the auditor was there. You may not know. Now you can ask questions of the auditor. You can do whatever you want with the auditor. I mean, as far as, asking and talking to them, they may not tell you, but they may at the same time. Did he talk about Mr. Short, by the way?
Yeah, so you may not know why he's there. Honestly, when he first showed up, the Mr. Short's case of arrest wasn't in my mind at all. I just thought, okay, this guy's going to show up and see if we kick his butt out of City Hall or rip him off the sidewalk. That's what he wants. He wants an officer to show up and throw him on the ground and arrest him, and then there you go. We're off to the races. We didn't do that at all. He had a very pleasant experience. I showed him around. Honestly, he probably got about 30 minutes of Cave City history that he didn't even care about after he asked me a few questions about it. But yes, he did admit halfway through that conversation where we're sitting on the thing, he said, actually, I got to tell you, he said, I'm actually here for a specific reason. And he said, do you know Mr. Short? And I said, and then of course I thought, oh boy, here we go. He didn't just show up to Cave City. I don't know if he ever would have come to Cave City. He came for that specific reason, not just to do a First Amendment audit.
This all happened in about 2 weeks span. The video about Gene Short and then the Cave City Police Department video came in about the same 2 week span. And now they're sort of overlapping together. Now you're getting people from Ohio and wherever calling about how, you're running a communist state in Cave City, which I've been to Cave City. It's hard to think communists can raise watermelons like that.
We can. We actually can.
Yeah. Oh, you can. Oh, communists can. Yeah. But no. So now you're having to deal with all the two things at the same time. The auditor, which was handled well, but then now you have the backstory that you're having to handle as well. So are you ready for that? Because here's the video. 195,000 views as of. I put this together in October, so it's after the August.
And that's our video from October 23. Well, that's some of the body cam footage from the arrest situation.
So is there an underlying event? Investigate the underlying event. Make sure you know about the underlying event. Don't pretend you know about it either, by the way. I'm sure you didn't go in there. In fact, I know you didn't, because you said, I'm not going to talk about Mr. Short's criminal case,
right?
Which is exactly what to do. Don't wade off into this, because then as your lawyer, I'll tell you this, don't say something you'll have to backtrack later on. So if you don't know, you don't know. And there's no need, you don't have to divulge anything to them.
Right.
They can record you all day long, but you do not have to answer their
As we're sitting on the bench, he brought up the Gene Short case and he said, so you want to talk about that a little bit? But I just told him, we're not going to discuss that. And he said, well, you don't want to talk about law? And I think in one thing I said, I'm absolutely not going to talk to you about that on camera right now. I'm not going to do it. And the only thing I gave him was I said, I'll just tell you this. There's a lot more to that story than what you have been told.
Yes. Which he did not tell in his videos.
And he didn't believe me.
By the way, quick aside, my favorite part of that video was when you were asked by the Random Patriot, do you know the First Amendment? You said yes. And he goes, what are the 5 provisions in the First Amendment? And as you were trying to answer it, I thought freedom of speech, freedom of press, religion. I was like, oh, there's 2 more? I forgot about assembly, and there's another one maybe. And that's always fun to watch you try to.
Yeah.
he was being very kind to you, but it was interesting to watch.
Yeah, he did. He asked me. He said, "Yeah, as you're a mayor, so what are the first?" He said, "You know what the First Amendment?" I said, "Well, of course I do." He said, "Okay, well, what are the 5?" He wanted me to list them, and I knew right there. Of course, especially when you're in the moment, And I've got a master's degree in American history. I could not think of the 5. I was like, "Dang it, I got 3 of them, but I can't."
I have waited for this moment to make fun of you for that. And then you had to be ready to know what you can do about the social media. This could be a whole separate class. What I'll tell you is that on the League's website is our sample or model social media policy. So if you want to know more about it, go to our website and learn more about it. But I'll give you some quick things. 1, you can't really do a whole lot about profanity. There's just not a whole lot you can do about it. You can do a lot about pornography if they put links to whatever site they put on there, or they put images of porn. You can take that sort of stuff down, obviously. What I really want to talk about is death threats or incitements to violence. You can also take incitements to violence down, but if I ever see that mayor, I'm gonna whoop his butt. That's not enough to take it down. Because again, real quick, when you're putting comments on Facebook, it's a public Facebook page. You are creating it and setting it up as a public forum for people to interact with the government. I can't make it to City Hall every council meeting, so I'm going to interact with the government through Facebook messaging. So that's the point. You can do that. So you got to be careful what you take down, because you run into First Amendment violations. So back to incitement. Next time I'm in town, I'm from Ohio, I'm going to kick Mayor Anderson's butt. Can't take that down. If he says, join me at 2 p.m. in front of City Hall, we're going to beat up Mayor Anderson together. I'm bringing donuts, you bring the coffee. Then you can probably take that down. But you got to be very careful about it. And I would encourage you to always call us, or really start with your city attorney, but call us and we can help navigate that for you, because I can tell you, it's really tricky to take down comments. Our general rule is you either allow everything or you allow nothing. You do not have to allow comments. Now, if you allow comments anywhere, you have to allow it everywhere. If you allow comments on, hey, what do y'all think about the new park going on the east side of town? Then you can't then block comments when you say, what do y'all think about the police department? And kick and say, we're not allowing bad comments, or just saying we're not allowing comments at all on this particular issue. It is an all or none situation. Now this is a burgeoning issue. This is a big issue, and it's continuing to evolve. And the 11th Circuit is like I said, Florida, Alabama. They're really leading the charge right now on law when it comes to this. So I'm keeping a very close eye on them, but I want to know what you're encountering as well.
Our police department Facebook group basically was rendered useless, unfortunately, by people from all over the country, some around the world, that were commenting, profanity, threats, you tyrants, blah, blah, blah. We can't take them off. I can't do anything about it. But at the same time, like, I can't have this. We can't do this. I mean, people in town are calling, why have you not shut that Facebook group off by now? This is ridiculous. So I did call John. I said, okay, after about a week and a half or so, I called John and I said, look, this is getting out of hand. Like, people are literally calling for, police officers, not just ours, police officers. This is why police officers get shot and stuff like that. And I told John, I said, we're fixing to turn this Facebook group off. He said, yeah, go for it. So we actually, unfortunately, I hated it. And we kind of had a little back and forth.
Yeah, we did.
John's like, man, this is kind of the way it needs to go. And I kind of pushed back a little bit. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I should not have to. This is the way you probably feel too. The citizens in my community rely on this Facebook group to interact with their police department. And by gosh, I shouldn't have to shut off a Facebook group that's been in place for 10 years with all this good history of all this interactions because one guy shows up and now all these people from around the country that don't even know us have ruined it. But we did. We ended up shutting down that Facebook group. I created a Cave City Police Department Facebook page, which we now do not allow commenting on, period. It is a weird techie issue, though. You can't there's no switch that you can flip in the settings to do that. You've got to and I'm the one having to do it right now. And unfortunately, it's causing us not to post very much stuff for the police department anymore. Again, which I think is very unfair to us, but that's the way it is.
And that was our disagreement, because when he called me about this, and remember what I said, this all pass, this too shall pass. Well, it just wouldn't pass, but I would say, listen, Mayor, I really think this is a forum. I would keep it open. I think these people, will look foolish. I think the citizens, they were already starting to push back,
Oh yeah, and you know how it goes. There were citizens getting on there just bashing them back, punching back.
And I was convinced, look, I really think you should keep it open. But then the comments kept coming and coming and coming. And I thought, well, maybe I was wrong about this. But that's the question you have to ask yourself. Do you want to have that much open dialogue to the point that it may just dilute the Facebook page? Or do you want to restart and not allow any comments? And I remember that was a week's discussion between you and I about what to do. I was driving to Alabama talking to you about this.
Yeah.
The other issue to keep in mind is what to do about the council meeting. Now, Gene Short did not show up to the council meeting, but
he threatened to.
And we were, thinking that he may show up to a council meeting, and we're talking about what to do about it. One thing to remember when it comes to council meetings, the council and the mayor, of course, has the ability to determine the rules of its proceedings. So now, if you allow people to speak who has a 3-minute public comment period? Okay, So if I want to show up and talk about how great you all are for 3 minutes, I hope you allow me, right? Because I'm remember the pup. Well, you may have but anyway, let me come in. You can't then have Gene Short say that John Wilkerson's full of it, and I think you're terrible. You can't then bar him from doing it. So if you allow the comment period, much like comments on Facebook, you have to allow them all. Now, so I would encourage you to develop the way that you have the 3 minute comment period, make sure that you have it, make sure you enforce it across the board. There's also the idea of Mr. Short could have been asked to be escorted out of the council meeting if he got too unruly. But I'm telling you, that is such a high bar. I would almost want to see a weapon involved before you take that step. And I'm overselling that just a touch, because you get real dicey because you are in a public forum that is meant for people to watch city business. Now, if they're disruptive to the point that you can't get city business done, then you have to make a hard decision. My first advice would be to adjourn the meeting and move on. Arrest is the absolute last resort. And that's what we were struggling with.
We did.
What to do. Last thing, I know we're 2 minutes over real quick, but I do want to say, remember the FOIA. There was FOIAs after this. The 911 calls got FOI'd by the sheriff, or to the sheriff's department. The sheriff then said it's $5 per 911 call, which is not the rule. And he corrected himself on that. Well, the sheriff didn't say it. The captain actually said it. And the sheriff corrected him. But make sure you're ready for the FOI request. Make sure you give over all documents that you have to give over.
Going back to the beginning of it, you're going to have pressure from people. They're going to be calling you in real time saying, you need to do this, you need to do this. Why are we not doing this? This is the law, when actually that's not the law. They don't understand.
Right.
I had law enforcement officers calling me saying, this is the law right here. Actually, they were wrong. That was not the law. Be prepared, number one, to stand up to your own citizens, unfortunately, and say, no, we can't do this. And like I told my people, we're going to keep our heads cool. We're going to stay calm, because the second you don't, you're going to screw up and you're liable to get yourself in a lawsuit.